Welcome to the LeapSheep Startup Builder Live Q&A, where founders and startup leaders come for clarity, connection, and to uncover the real-world secrets behind startup success. Each session, we go beyond the surface to explore the unfiltered side of startup building, what really works, what doesn't, and why. You'll hear directly from founders who are in the trenches building and from expert guests who spent years helping startups navigate the unknowns, from funding and strategy, product development, customer growth, and team building. Together, we're creating a space to reveal the people, the approaches, and the lessons that that separate the startups from those that don't. I'm Kirk Drage. I'm the CEO and co-founder at LeapSheep. It's fantastic to have you with us and be part of this global community of founders, experts, and allies on our shared mission to flip the startup failure rate and create more successful founders. To all the founders that are joining us live, welcome. We know how unpredictable and demanding your day can be, so we really appreciate the time that you're making today. If you're watching us on YouTube or LinkedIn, please drop a comment in at any time and we'll bring those into the session where we can. Let's dive in and meet today's guest, Jasmin Hyde. Jasmin is a strategist, storyteller, and startup advisor who's changing how early stage companies build credibility and project their message. She's the founder of Hyde Seek Communications, a consultancy helping founders cut through the noise with story-led PR and market positioning strategies that connect. Her background spans award-winning campaigns across AI, sustainability, health tech, and social impact, bringing a unique blend of strategic communications and deep empathy for what founders face. Jasmin's mission is to make trust, credibility, and visibility accessible to early-stage ventures doing meaningful work. She's also a 2025 Melbourne Young Entrepreneur Awards finalist and an influential voice helping founders rethink what PR means today and what it can do when it's done right. Jasmin, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. Welcome.
Thanks, Kirk. So great to be here, and thanks for that amazing introduction.
How's your week been, all right?
Good. It's been, busy, but the good kind.
Is there any other kind of week?
Yeah, pretty much.
Not in the startup world, right? Hey, let's start off by getting to know a little bit about your journey in the startup world and the PR world. Hyde Seek, I love that name, by the way. It's fabulous. What's been the biggest insight for you from making the leap from a campaign leader to a founder?
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting journey. I think the biggest insight from moving from campaign lead to a business founder myself is that I finally get to experience the flip side. So I'm my own fastest client. There's no approvals and no delays.
Yeah.
But I've also learned firsthand what founders go through, having been there myself or being there myself. And so that's the pressure, the decision fatigue, thinking we've got so much to say, but where do we even start? And what do we even start talking about? So that perspective, I think, has made me a better strategist. So when I'm in kickoff calls with early stage founders, I can really spot those same blind spots in how they're thinking about PR because I've lived them or I'm living through them. Yeah.
I remember when I started, I joined a startup when I left Microsoft as a corporate role, and the person that was running the company said to me, I can't guarantee we're going to be successful, but I can guarantee you'll learn more in the next 3 years than you've learned in the last 10.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so true, right? You just have to, the rate of learning to run your own business is just crazy.
It's a pressure cooker. Yeah. And it's funny, I started an agency to sort of gain freedom. And now my new boss is even tougher. So
there's no escaping a boss, right? We all try and start our own thing to escape the boss.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, it's been great. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's jump into some of your expertise. Now, you've got some fabulous expertise in the PR space, but let's start off with some simple questions, because not every founder has had experience with PR before. So let's jump into some sort of easy starting questions. Like, what are the common pitfalls with PR that you see?
Yeah, great place to start. I would say the biggest mistake overall is the misunderstanding about what PR actually is. And that's not exclusive to founders or business owners. So even inside the industry, there can be a little bit of lines blurred about PR's role, a lot of increasing convergence with roles like marketing and advertising, which I'll touch on later. But I think the biggest mistake is really not understanding where it fits, what it is, or seeing it as paid advertising or a late stage luxury, I think. So that can really lead to misdeployment. So people can wait till they're at like a 7-figure stage thinking PR is just for the big players. But really, the sooner you start, the better your compounding can start. So you'll get better SEO results. Artificial intelligence optimization is an increasingly important thing to think about. So earlier media relationships, the list goes on. So it can be really beneficial to start early.
Yeah, I love, like, one of the things I love helping founders with is, like, there's so much information out there about what that late stage of any part of your business looks like late stage, CRM deployment, or late stage like product management and development team. But you can't start there. So for PR, what does some of the first few steps look like for really, like, if you're a solo founder, or maybe you've got a couple of co-founders and it's just you.
Yeah.
Like, what does that really, really early stage PR look like?
Yeah, you can start small. So you don't have to wait till you're sort of completely ready. You can start small, get your message clear, seed your presence early. So I guess it's better to view PR as like that momentum building thing than a one-off big time stunt. And I guess I could talk a little bit about Hyde Seek here, for example. So we did no paid visibility getting off the ground. And when we started to build the PR side of things, obviously it's easier because that's my background and whatever, but it's thinking, what are we talking about? What are we talking about with collaborators, with clients? What am I thinking about in terms of the growth strategies? So check your Slack chats, think about what you're throwing around in stand-ups. And sometimes it's like these ideas that you're already kicking around that are low lift and high value. So you just have to work it up into content. Think about one strategic placement, right? So if it's inside small business, food and drink business, agriculture, trade, media, like whatever your audience is going to be reading, or something that you can amplify across your own channels, take an idea that you've already got and then just work it up into something that's media friendly. So you don't have to do a huge campaign. Just start simple, lay the seeds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good advice. And I know when I talk to founders about this, and gently nudge them to start telling their story earlier, a lot of the pushback is, I don't have a product yet, or I feel like it's too early. I really want to wait till I've got some wins on the board. Maybe I've got a customer case study and I can talk about. How do you handle that with clients?
Yeah. We talk about this a lot. It's like what to announce when there's nothing to announce, right?
Yeah.
So the things that have gotten you to that point, there's still an issue at play potentially if you're solving a gap. So there's still going to be data points to do with your industry that you're solving. So if you don't have a fully fledged case study just yet, you're already working towards a solution, and that's a story in itself. You could be talking about industry trends or predictions. Maybe there's a policy that's up for debate at the moment. Maybe there's an announcement coming up. So it doesn't have to be your typical new hire or new client signed or going to market with something. There are ways to get your voice out there that doesn't have to hinge around these like traditional milestones per se.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we often talk about building the open. I don't know if that's a term that you use at all, but with founders, I think it's a bit of a mega trend that we've seen in the last couple of years in particular, where in the days gone by, like 10 years ago when I was in Silicon Valley, it was really common to start a startup in stealth, get a product built, get your early customers, and not until you had your product sort of sorted did you sort of have a party to come out. Whereas now these days, founders are warts and all. Here's the journey that I'm going on, tearing my hair out, trying to get my first customer, all that kind of stuff. And I think that adds so much credibility, right, to the founder.
Yeah,
and so much authenticity.
Yeah, and I mean, you still see stealth projects, and there's some value in, depending on your personal journey and product. Like stealth mode can have its use cases for sure. But I think what you touched on, Kirk, about getting the face out there and visibility and that kind of thing, it sort of is a sign of the times. Like people connect with people. And so it's about having that face or the voice connecting to the brand that you can really trust. So if you think about a brand that you personally use all the time, you know exactly what it stands for, you trust it, it's beyond kind of like a faceless product or subscription, then if you think about any of those brands, they've all got a person attached to it. It doesn't have to be the founder, but it's someone's voice.
Someone once told me that people are attracted to personalities, not logos.
Yep.
And even the big logos, like you think about Virgin, Richard Branson, or
exactly.
Nike. You think about the sports stars that they retain.
Salesforce, it's Mark Benioff.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
And some products will sell themselves, like Netflix. Like for example, if it speaks for itself, you know what you're getting, But if you're looking to scale and really take it to the next level and build that connection with your audience, it's really tricky to do that with just a logo, as you said.
Yeah. And I think, that the Netflix one is a great point because that's a lot of it's like the learning by osmosis that we do as founders, where we see those success stories and we think, okay, that's what I have to replicate. But that's really the exception, not the rule, right? It's a bit of a cheat code to use your personal brand to start to get awareness, as opposed to try and build up a logo to have meaning, which is expensive and difficult and slow, right?
Absolutely. And it was super blue ocean. So when it started, unless you're blue ocean, think about OpenAI. Would we be using that and trusting it if we didn't know at least, Sam Altman? I mean, not going to touch on like personal branding or get into any of that with other companies, but we know exactly who he is and what he stands for. He's quite vocal. And so would we trust putting as much data as people do these days into a platform if we didn't have a face attached to it? I don't think so.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a challenge. I think it's a conversation I'm having daily with founders is actually just working through that. I know for me, I had the same, I'm an introvert, a bit shy, not getting out there is not my favorite thing to do. But it's super, someone's got to do it. As you say, it might not be the founder, but you've got to have somebody to do it. Yeah.
That's really common actually in business, and it's surprising. It's even extroverts can have the same attitude. They don't want to be praised. They don't. I think it's fear. I think a big part of it's fear, which is totally a human element. So what if it doesn't work out? So I think there's that attached to it, but it's really common. And it's sort of, once you get over the cringe factor, we hear this with like LinkedIn posting, for example. If you get over the cringe factor, it's just practice makes perfect. Or some people are never comfortable with it. And for them, I would recommend either, maybe your first hire, or maybe an ambassador or someone else can be that face if you really don't want to be, but having that human attachment. Yeah,
totally. Another thing which I find really helpful with founders is helping them understand different levels of story. And particularly the early stage founders that I work with, that in many cases are still trying to figure out who their ideal customer is and what their first product is. So there's that story that they're unclear of, and they don't want to start talking about that in public because they know that they might be, they might be focused on the education industry this week, and next week it could be healthcare. So it feels a bit risky to go out and talk about that. But generally they have a thesis for why they started their company. And the thesis these days for many businesses is, we know AI is a huge thing. Every industry is going to have to retool for AI. I'm certain someone's going to win in this space. I don't know exactly who, I don't know exactly when, but I'm hoping it's going to be me. I'm going to have a crack. Like, even that story is a story, isn't it?
It is. Without it falling into the generic trap, it is. So they'd have to put a little bit of unique spin on it. And it's so true. I think there's a big danger of like shiny object syndrome in the space. Everyone's trying to do the new thing the soonest. And it's about sort of, it comes down to proof. So it's like proof there was a problem, proof you're doing it differently, proof you can solve it. But I think, so if again, I use Hyde Seek as an example, like when we started building our following, I guess, on LinkedIn, for example, it wasn't actually speaking to audiences. It was more speaking about PR. And so you can start by speaking about what you know. So start with your industry, start building your platform, your thought leadership, speaking to your peers, right? And then once you kind of have a better understanding of your customer, or you're seeing what messaging is landing within your peers, then you can kind of get targeted with your customers. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, thinking about the change that has to happen in the world, I think it's fabulous advice. Let's maybe move on to and you touched on it, the difference between PR and marketing and advertising. Throw that in there as well. Can you talk us through that? How do you sort of define that distinction?
Yeah, they're definitely connected, but they're not the same. And again, like even in the sector, there's a bit of confusion. I think a lot of my friends and family think I do marketing, for example. There's a lot of confusion about what each role actually is. So they're definitely connected. Marketing gets you seen. So, but PR will kind of get you trusted. That could be as simple. So if you think about marketing as like, I used this analogy the other day. If you think about marketing as your brand's engine, so it's pushing your brand from the inside out, PR will get that on the road and it will get to the people.
Yeah, right.
That's a useful way to think about it. So they definitely go hand in hand, but marketing is sort of more internally focused. When you're going out, it's more like paid or controlled exposure, whereas PR's it's not really paid. It's more about earning that credibility and getting people to say, hey, they're good, instead of saying we're good.
Yeah. I love Seth Godin's take on attention marketing, where some people talk about the fact that we're in the attention economy, and he says that yes, that's true, but the best friend of attention is trust. And it's no point having attention if you don't have the trust that comes along with it. And so that's the big role of PR, isn't it? Is to help gain that trust as well as the attention.
Absolutely. I love Seth Godin. He's got such a different but powerful view on marketing. It's about credibility. It's about trust. So if people, for example, if you see an advertorial in a trade magazine, the content might be really strong because the marketing team's written it, they've got it out there. But if it doesn't really have like an audience first lens or a story first lens, it might be really amazingly strong sales copy, but people may not connect with it. And so earning a journalist's trust to place a story in a magazine and earning the right for it to be there means that it's going to be of value to their readers, and you haven't paid for it to be there. And so the reason it's gotten in is because people are going to care about it, read it, and that's what can convert. So they definitely go hand in hand. One can't really work without the other. Without a good sort of, or at least a lean marketing foundation of some kind, you wouldn't be sort of ready for PR. So you need to kind of get the messaging, and then you can go out to market with.
Yeah, you used a magical word there, and I think this is how I think about it. There's owned media, there's paid media, and there's earned media. That's how I think about it. Absolutely. And the owned media is a lot what you see a lot of founders doing, posting online. They've got their own newsletters. It's their voice direct to their potential audience. And then you've got paid, where you're paying, for Facebook ads or Google ads or LinkedIn ads or whatever. But as you say, if you can earn someone else's attention and focus to write about you, that says something about your credibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's where PR sits. EPOS is a useful acronym to kind of remember the four. So as you earned, paid, owned, but also shared. Shared, okay. Which is sort of like if people are sharing your owned content across social media. So EPOS.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's a great one. EPOS. I love it. I'm going to remember that. And you mentioned advertising there. Can you bring that in as well?
Advertising.
How do you see advertising?
Yeah, I think the answer would be different now than 20 years ago, right? So traditionally, 20 years ago, it'd be paying for an ad on Channel 9 or Channel 7, or paying for a billboard. Hey, billboards are kind of coming back, to be honest. Now it's about, now it's like the digital billboard in interesting places you might not expect, with a lot of eyeballs on them. But obviously it's social media is a massive one. So paid digital spend is huge. But really, I mean, anything sort of advertising is going to have a dollar figure next to it. You're paying to get it out there. Yeah, that's a good distinction. And there are situations where those two things go hand in hand, aren't there? When you're working with radio stations and TV, and there is that paid advertising, but there's also you want to earn the right to be written about by the journalist. Definitely, like with some larger campaigns, if there's a commercial agreement, so every half an hour on 3AW Drive, they're going to the host is going to talk about this upcoming event. That's the paid arrangement. But then because of that partnership, there might be scope to do a longer form feature interview with either the founder or a case study or someone involved, and you're going to get to the nuts and bolts of what that means, but that's not guaranteed. So that earn spot's not guaranteed, but they can go hand in hand, because you've got that kind of steady short drumbeat of paid awareness, and then you've got the longer form, which can dive a bit deeper. So they can definitely work together. That's just one example.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's a lot more complex than many founders appreciate, which is why it's so valuable having somebody navigate you and sort of help you, because it's easy to spend a lot of time, isn't it, in the marketing space, the PR space, the advertising space. It's easy to spend time and money, but it's hard to do it effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of someone picking it up and doing it themselves, like founders are in a fantastic position. They know the brand inside out, but there's a lot that does go into it, and I think people think I can handle it myself, and it is a bit of a scary beast to think about it from the other side. But if you can bring in someone who's like sort of spent their whole career doing it, it can make it so much easier. And you can do the basics, you can do the bare minimum yourself. That is totally doable. But I think when it comes to like thought leadership, strategically reaching your audiences, that kind of thing, it can really help to get an expert on board. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And what's your advice on building relationships? Because if you want to earn a media placement, is it about just writing a fabulous press release and setting it out there and hoping for the best, or is it about building relationships and knowing the journalists that potentially are going to be writing about you and helping them do their job better?
Absolutely. Yes to that last bit. It's less about who you know now, because there's a few factors around this. So newsrooms are getting smaller. The journalist landscape is changing. A lot of journalists are sort of moving into other areas, or they're wearing more hats. So because of the movement, it's less about who you know, because that person could be different in a year's time or less.
Yeah.
And it's also all the noise, especially with AI, like there's so much out there. Stories have to be of a certain caliber now. So your relationships, but I think relationships were never enough to get a story up, right? So they'll get your email opened. Good relationships mean that your story will get read. It doesn't mean it will get published if it's crap. And you wouldn't want to share a bad story with someone that you've got a good relationship with as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think what makes a good blog isn't the same as what makes a good press release, for example. So what you said about helping the journalist out, that is what's missing from a lot of PR these days. And it's about giving them a good story, giving them everything they need on a platter so they can just run the story. And then they're also going to be pretty open to, having you a good share of quotes in there and business messaging as well. So it goes two ways.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is something that a lot of us, certainly I underestimated when starting a business, is the amount of time you need to devote to that relationship building and getting those connections.
Yeah, at the start, so the earlier you start building those relationships, the better. And then you get to this point where journos are reaching out to you for comment, and you're not having to only focus on proactive PR pitching, which founders know, like that's more time in the day, So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Can we switch gears from the customer audience of founders to investors and talk a little bit about crafting an investor-ready story? Have you got any thoughts, advice, guidance, experience in this space? Because I know that's a common question for founders.
Increasingly. I think as Australia sort of the entrepreneurial landscape picks up, this is an increasing request that we get. So it's no longer about get us in the media, it's get us noticed by investors or backed by investors. But there's so much crossover, right? Because journalists are people, they're people reading their articles, are people, investors are people. And they don't ever back products alone. They also back the people, because they want to know, they're looking for conviction, they're looking for self-awareness, they're looking for obviously product market fit, but it's storytelling at the end of the day. It's good storytelling. And so you can have all your figures, you can have all your projections, but if they don't really connect to your story and have faith that that's going to, because if they're not connecting with your story, how are your customers going to? So we see that some founders can either sort of undershare or overhype. They are the two biggest things we see. Both of them. Sort of keeping their face out of the brand is another one as well, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah. That overhyping is a big one. But having the comfort to tell your story, I think earlier, as we were saying, and you've got to be authentic. You've got to, and that's why I think a lot of founders don't want to do it, because they don't want to fall into that overhype sort of category. They want to be authentic, and they want to be trusted, and they want to be credible, and so they hold back. So it's about finding that balance, isn't it? It's about helping founders balance.
I think be real, but be specific. Be specific about the problem you're looking to solve, how you're going to solve it, while being real, and lead with the issue. So a lot of founders dive into technical explanations about the back end or what they want to do, but they miss that first. It can just be the first slide of the pitch deck, and it needs to be a damn good story. but you don't have to
Yeah.
write War and Peace, right? And so it's the art of brevity, and it's like, tell the story and then follow with everything else. Yeah.
I want to pick up on storytelling because I think it's a fascinating subject in and of itself. But we've got a couple of questions that have come in. Fatima, thanks for dropping a question in. She's asking, what's the right balance between founder-centric storytelling and maintaining a credible brand image for early stage B2B startups?
Yeah, great question. I would say they definitely go hand in hand, right? So you would want to tie in the founder story with the brand image if you can, or if your founder's not going to be the face of the brand, that kind of human element with the brand image. So your people are an asset and a lever for the brand. So really, it doesn't have to be their whole life's journey is aligning with what the product's doing now, especially for a B2B. But it's what have these people done, or what experience have they got that makes it relevant to be leading the charge on what this B2B startup is looking to solve for businesses.
Yeah. And I'd probably add to that the conversation we were just having about sort of finding your voice and that building in the open. I think, as a founder, you're talking to people all the time, and behind closed doors, you're really happy to share about what your vision is and, why you've, quit your job and started a startup or whatever your situation is. Like that story, which is not about, how many customers you've got, or how much revenue you've got, or how much product, and, the typical kind of startup success metrics, which is that we hear, which are often vanity metrics, which is how much capital have you raised and, how many awards have you won and those sorts of things. You can tell a lot of that behind the scenes story in public in a way that feels comfortable and credible. It's just that sometimes you have to be shown how that's possible, because often founders don't think that's possible.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you're loosely telling someone your story and it's at the pub or something and they go, wow, that's really cool. Think about weaving that in. Honestly, it's that powerful stuff. And I think going back to Fatima's point, there's nuances depending on the platform as well. So sometimes you'll feel like it's more suitable to tell more of the founder story if it's a feature media piece, for example. But if you're talking to investors, or if it's a landing page that's very much tailored to a specific audience, you might dial that back. So it can be platform dependent.
Yeah, 100%. Platform and audience dependence is everything, isn't it? Got another question that's popped in from Kuba here. Is there any indication that marketing is shifting towards consumer-driven rather than celebrity influencer-driven?
Oh yeah. Hey, there's still a place for celebrities and influencers, but for the last few years, we've seen the rise of micro influencers for this reason. So it's all about community and authentic connections. So there's still a place for big names, right? And if you're a huge global brand and you can afford, say, Kim Kardashian, that's going to hold a lot of weight for your brand. We're not past that stage at all. But being consumer driven ties in with how sort of high trust we are now. We're looking for authenticity and connection. And if you have a few really tailored written Google reviews about your brand, rather than a person that someone may follow or not, that may have like 500,000 followers, it doesn't actually relate to them, it can actually hold more value. And I think this also ties in with LLMs. So tailored, like Reddit, like 40-something% of what ChatGPT picks up is from Reddit, and that's because they're just raw, unfiltered community takes. And that's what we're after these days. So there is definitely a shift.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about Seth Godin and the attention. You need the friend of attention, which is trust. And I think there's a certain amount of influencer fatigue, isn't there? Particularly, we've sort of gone through that phase where a lot of influencers were seeing purely attention and faking things, and people are wising up to that world and moving on from it.
100%.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's jump back into the next question I had from you before I take some questions that were submitted before the show. And I think this is something that every founder wants to know about is how do you do high impact PR on a startup budget? How do you get started? What should you be spending?
$1 million question, or the not $1 million.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say start smaller. So stop thinking, I'll just do PR later. I'll wait till scale phase. I'll get around to it. And it's just, put on the back burner. As I said, you can really build early visibility by thinking about what you're already talking about. Start small, just test one story and build from there. So every credible mention becomes proof for investors and partners later. I think a lot of it is feeling like, as you said before, like feeling like you're going to be locked in to a topic or an audience. If you say that, it's okay. If it's still something that aligns with your brand ethos and your voice, you're still getting your voice out there and you're laying the seed. Even if later you sort of double down and do a campaign towards another audience, it's still going to benefit you with digital visibility and SEO. So start small. Obviously, don't talk about something that you may not even have in your offering potentially in 6 months' time. Like, don't do something too left field, but do something that's in your wheelhouse. And don't worry about locking yourself in too much. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. And I know one of the reasons why, when we spent some time together when we first met, that I think we really gelled is because we have a shared set of values around providing founders with done with you services, not just done for you. Like the typical agency model is very much done for you, isn't it? It's like, I'm the expert, you're the client. Hand it to me. I'll take care of everything.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, there's that. I think a big problem I saw with PR was also the yes man attitude on the flip side. So telling sales stories as though they're press releases doesn't work. The client goes, oh, amazing, you're going to get my sales story in the media. But it doesn't work because even if it gets coverage, it won't convert. So I think there's a little bit of that. But I would say like the old either no PR or like 10K a month agency retainer is dead. There is in between. So with the shift with like fractional work and hybrid people working remotely all over the globe now, there is flexibility out there. You can probably start sooner than you think. Like, for example, we provide fractional support if it's just 2 or 3 days a month inside a business, and they just need that kind of like expert lens inside. Our team provides that. So yeah, there's definitely options out there, and I would start exploring it even if you're not ready, just so that when you come time, you know the right fit. Yeah.
But I had a sense, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're empowering founders to do the things that they can do themselves, so they don't have to pay for an expert. Because I think that's the sort of traditional agency model that I think scares a lot of us off.
Yes,
we can't afford, as much as we'd love to afford the experts, and maybe we have afforded the experts in previous roles. We can't this time around.
Do what you can do in-house. So, and I can share with you, Kirk, a little checklist of what founders can do internally first, but come prepared. And then when you have those discussions with whether it's a consultant or an agency, then it's like, hey, we've already got all this. We just kind of need your help here, here, and here, rather than do it all for me and charge me the earth. It doesn't really have to be like that. That's cool. That's very much the way that we work. And I think, founders can do so much now with AI, and I'm sure you're seeing that more and more as, you use those tools at your disposal. They're not necessarily going to get you all the way there, but they'll get you a lot further and make everybody's job, including your job if you're a service provider, a lot easier, right? 100%. And you've probably seen this too. By that point, then they're kind of closer to the process and going to be more invested and more across it as well. So it's very much a collaborative relationship. So
Yeah, I think that knowing, you mentioned earlier, if you can package things up so you can hand things on like a silver platter to those journalists, knowing what that is a bit of a process. So understanding that, working with an expert, and then you can start doing some of the bits it yourself. You can do yourself and get the expertise where you need it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, I've got a couple of questions that were submitted before the show. Let's jump into some of those. So this is Arjun from Singapore. How do I simplify my message without losing substance? Classic Mark Twain quote, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't write a shorter letter that I didn't have time.
So good. The art of brevity. I mean, some people make whole careers and they make a lot of money out of mastering this. So it's not easy, right? So you've got a lot you want to say about your brand. It's your baby in some cases. And so how do you strip some parts out of that without losing the substance? I would say at a starting point, say it out loud and say it out loud again and again. And when you find words that aren't actually adding value, cut them. Like if they're not, and if you think, when you say substance, like that could be like 5 to 10 words that all hold substance. Is there a way to just change the words you're using so they land better with less? And define what substance is. Is it substance to you or the audience, right? And they don't need to know everything, because we've all heard it, I think, when you ask someone, so what do you do or what are you building? And you get the sort of technical manual, and then you're zoned out and you're thinking about what to eat. And it's like, you just want to hear an elevator pitch kind of,
Yeah.
and then you can get people to ask more. So yeah, I would say we're living in a time where people don't have time to sort of, as it's shrinking. So we like brevity sort of equals intelligence, I would say. So investors are really looking for clarity. So just say it like you would say it to your friends, just candidly, and then you could use that, but just maybe less swearing or something.
I love Michael Sable from Y Combinator talks about make sure you have clarity over coverage.
Yep.
You don't have to tell somebody everything. If you just tell them one thing about what you do, but it's really super clear and it's easy to understand, they'll pull more from you if they're interested.
They'll come back later to ask, or they'll want to dive deep. Absolutely, agree.
Yeah. Brilliant. Let's go to Laura from Wellington. How do we share this milestone publicly without sounding boastful? That's a great one.
That is. That's a great question. I think we've all seen the posts, "We're thrilled to announce," or so cliched. Look at me. The trick is to shift focus from the self to substance. So going back to what we were talking about in terms of solving issues or purpose. And so you should be confident. You should be loud about your wins. Like you can say, look, we've achieved this, but tie it back to, so what does that mean? So what does that mean in terms of your founding story or your vision, or what's that doing for people? And if it's not community based, that's fine. Like what's that going to do for the industry? What does that mean for other founders in your space? So tie it to a bigger thing than yourself. But I think at the same time, I'd be interested if, this is from New Zealand, right? I think Australia's still got a bit of a tall poppy syndrome hangover. It's definitely getting better, but at the same time, we pride ourselves on being like the humble achievers. So I think crossing that is something to overcome, and being proud is like fine. Just make it like purposeful, I would say.
Yeah. I love that. I love the advice that you've got to make the customer the hero and you're the guide. Yeah. So it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi winning a prize. It's like, what does that mean for training Jedis? It's kind of the way that my Star Wars brain thinks about it anyway. Is making the customer the hero.
It sounds right. Yeah. No, that was it. Yeah.
One question I was sort of keen to ask you, and we didn't chat about this before the show, but like AI is just having such an impact, and we did chat about the list that both of us, and I'm sure every founder that's listening has, in terms of the tools that are out there that we just don't have time to test. There's more great AI innovation out there than we've got time to test.
Yeah.
What are some of the great tools that you're seeing in AI to help with PR that you have had time to look at?
I'll talk about the good first before I launch into the bad with PR. But I would say keeping it simple is best. So don't think you have to start deploying like 5 to 10 tools if you're just going to be spending time working out which ones are going where. Start simple. I would say, it's tricky with PR specifically. I think for any business, simple tools like Zapier, which have been around for some time and they just automate workflows. Obviously, ChatGPT is becoming more robust in terms of what you can do with it. As I was saying to you, like my homework list is growing. It's enormous. There's like 20 tools. I need to like experiment to see what's of value to the business or not. But yeah, just keep it simple. But there's firms and consultants out there who this is all they do. They come in and help you work out sort of what you need. And I think, again, that can be like a quite lean, flexible option. I imagine there's sort of help out there. So I'm not the person to speak to that. But I would say with the PR side of things, with AI, people are trying to move fast. So there's a recently launched, actually, they were launched a few months ago, and they are kind of trying to automate the entire process. So finding the story, writing a press release, sending it to journalists, sending the coverage to the clients. And I guess it sounds amazing in theory and really cost saving, but there's a lot of risk bringing this in too soon when the tech's not there yet, because journalists are people. And we talked about the importance of relationships, and journalists already are inundated. They receive hundreds of pitches. A lot of them are rubbish. And so automating this without human oversight is really dangerous. And I think it's at risk of eroding trust in an industry that's already pretty fragile, to be honest.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see some really great innovations in the PR space soon. But in terms of an end-to-end tool, I think we've got some way to go.
Not there yet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the more you understand the process behind the tool, I think this is true. True with anything that has been for forever. I look at the SaaS space, or even before that, the client server software. How many failed CRM implementations there were because people try and trust the tool to solve the problem rather than understanding the process and using the tool to help with the process.
Yeah, we want to trust the tool. Like, we have that hope, but there's a lot of risk involved at the moment.
We want the shortcut, don't we?
Yeah.
100%. All right. I think we've touched on this question from Tom, but thanks to Tom for sending in the question from Newcastle. Do I really need to be the face of the brand to build credibility? Yeah. We talked about this earlier. What's the summary answer for Tom?
Yeah, we did. It's a really common one. So I think what matters is, at the end of the day, it matters that there's a real relatable person to help represent the brand. Unless you're a sign up for $20 and that's it, unless it's a really product that speaks for itself and it's high value to those people, and they don't need to sort of connect with someone. I think if you're trying to scale or build something that people connect with, have a real relatable person as the face of the brand. It doesn't have to be yourself.
Yeah, totally. I would say that if you want to get meetings with people, at least having an online presence when you go to your LinkedIn profile that makes you look like an attractive person to have a meeting with. That's like bare minimum.
100%. Have a banner, have a photo. Yeah. And it makes people feel like they already know you, in a sense. They've scoped you out. So and have some posts on there. Like anytime you ask for a meeting and someone checks out your profile and you've posted nothing, it's like you say, it's hard to get to know you. It's hard to do it. Agree. Yep.
Excellent. We've got a question from Sophie from Vancouver. How can we build visibility and trust if we can't speak freely about the work? That's a
good one. I was talking with one of my friends the other day about this. It's tricky because if you have a really impressive client or case study and you can't share it because of kind of competitors, or it's a frustrating thing.
Or something,
Sorry?
It could be in defense. We work with quite a few defense clients, so can't talk about what they're doing.
Sensitive subject matter. Yeah, absolutely. So one option is anonymized case studies, but again, it still really depends on how sensitive the nature of the work is. Maybe there's situations like private meetings that aren't being recorded where you can mention the proof points. So if it's sort of intimate visibility and trust, there's definitely ways to navigate it. It does get tricky, but you can also use, anonymized proof points in media stories, for example. There's ways to sort of get around it. And that's, and I mean, trust. So you can have thought leadership and you can still have views on key topics without speaking about specific work.
Yeah, 100%. I think a good person to check out in this regard is Palmer Luckey with his Anduril defense company. Can't talk about his clients and what he's doing with the clients, but he's a great founder talking about the vision of where he wants to take the company and generically the successes that they're having and what's working and what's not working. And he just comes across as so credible. Exactly. And someone that's really painting a picture of the future. So I think for Sophie, might be in a very different space than you're in, but he would be a good one to check out, I think. This is from Ben from Adelaide. What's a more flexible way to get started with PR without a big agency retainer?
Yeah. So we touched on this, but I would say start with a fractional consultant. It might be a fractional head of communications that comes in to your business, gets you rolling, gets the assets you need, and maybe you just bring them in when you've got a mini campaign or a story to tell. So look into sort of agencies that will offer fractional support or a freelance consultant.
And what does that type of engagement look like? I know with some fractional folks, it's literally just fractional. It's a day a week or a couple of days a month or whatever, and sometimes there's an initial piece of work that has to be done to make that regular work worthwhile. What's your thought on that?
Depending on the stage, it could be let's build a 90-day roadmap. It could be let's do 6 months, and these are the deliverables per month, which might take roughly this many hours or days a month, but it's more deliverable focused, and the cost is priced around that. So it's tailored and flexible.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think that this speaks to one of the challenges I think a lot of founders have is there is a bit of a myth in startup world that you can just DIY everything. So I'm going to start Apple in my garage and I'll just DIY everything. And it is so much quicker to get some help from some experts that have, that will stop you from wasting, gobs of time and money.
Yeah.
And so quite often the decision that I encourage many very, very early stage or aspiring founders to make is like stay in your job a little bit longer and just save up a little bit of money so you can hire the experts you need to be successful. Because if you quit your job and then you're just trying to do everything yourself, you can find yourself digging a deeper hole, right?
It's one of those things you learn on the journey. It's like knowing when to outsource, knowing what to do yourself, knowing when to outsource. And it's about means to an end. Yeah.
100%. We got another one from Chloe from London. How do we know if our story is actually landing? How do you get feedback from the pitches that you're making?
Yeah, this is a really smart question to think about, I think, because it's like, okay, cool, story's out there. How's it working? There's feedback it depends on the channel or the platform. So for example, if it's a newsletter that's not getting clicks or, you're getting unsubscribes, that's a pretty clear signal that maybe the story's not working. If it's LinkedIn and they're not sparking, reposts or comments, or you're not getting many DMs, that's another sign. But I would say not initially, like it takes time. Like you have to kind of build that drumbeat. And so if you've been giving it a fair go, and you've been putting stuff out there and it's still not sort of driving that engagement, it could be a sign that it's time to like sharpen the story. And with the media, journalists will sometimes tell you no, or they just won't reply. And so if you're not getting pick up from the media, it's either your pitch or your story. So it's good to kind of have a look at both. Yeah,
totally. Great one. Lastly, before we wrap up, I'd be interested to hear any thoughts or insights that you might have on where the future of PR is going. Where do you see the industry heading? There's a lot of great technology. There's a lot of shifts in media consumption habits. What's the view of the future look like from your perspective?
It's a fascinating time to be a part of it. No, it really is. It's fast moving. There's a lot of talk about traditional media waning and dying, and I just think it's going to move. I think the reason we've got those journalistic gatekeepers is because it's to protect editorial value. So we've now got the means to just pump out whatever we want on social media, but I think we have to really protect the editorial value of that. And so I think there's always going to be a role for journalists. I think the platforms are shifting. I think we're moving in a digital first era. I think AI is changing what we have time and bandwidth for, and I think that could be set across a lot of industries. So there's more time to focus on what people are usually more excited about. So that's the strategy and the creative part, and we've got AI and those tools to kind of help streamline things. So it's an exciting time to be part of it. Yeah,
awesome. It's like democratizing of PR while the game's also shifting.
There's a lot going on.
It's a cool time. Thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and chat. I've learned a ton, which has been fabulous. You've got some amazing experience. Let's talk about how founders can find you if they want to reach out to you and talk about any of your services. You've got a couple of QR codes there.
Right. Yeah, thanks so much, Kirk. It's been absolutely awesome. So thanks for having me on. If people can head to hydeandseek.agency, or they can find me on LinkedIn, Jasmin Hyde. And we help with brand positioning, PR, digital storytelling across social media. So please get in touch.
Yeah. Awesome. And that storytelling, I'd love to, I'm going to have you on again and talk about that, because the whole art of storytelling is just so important. It's just so important. And I don't think the story of storytelling is really taught well anywhere that I've seen, but it's so important.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to save that for next time. But Jasmin, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you. Our next show is coming up on the 31st of October. We've got Kaiser Kensington. Keza is absolutely amazing, the work that she's done in the NDIS space, and she's such a passionate advocate for better outcomes for participants and providing a better quality of service. She's just an absolute powerhouse. So this is one not to be missed. And if you want to sign up, there's a QR code for the registration there. And if you've got any questions that you want to pre-submit, you can follow that link there as well. Of course, if you're a startup founder and you're looking for more clarity on the journey to startup building and want to know exactly how to use your time and money more effectively, so you make less mistakes, learn less lessons that we already know how to avoid, and find more success, LeapSheep has something called a Startup Builder Strategy session that I guarantee it'll be the best 3 hours that you ever spend on your startup, whether you're an aspiring founder, you're already in the process of building a product, or even if you've got a product that's already in the market. If you're frustrated with the pace of your traction, or just worried about how to spend your time and resources really effectively, that is a fabulous session. You can book that there using that QR code. If you don't feel you're ready for that, just reach out to me. Really, really happy to have a chat. Excellent. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next show.